Next order of business is roll call members. Please indicate your presence when the machine is open. If all the members voted, tally roll.
Hey there, friends and foes. Welcome to another episode of Sessions, your guide to the Indiana General Assembly, the good, the bad, and the handsome, which is Earl and I. Listen, we are officially at the halfway point. We've now moved bills out of the House. We've discussed our final bills in the House. Monday was third reading deadline for us. Monday feels like a really long time ago, though, at this point. I mean, it
does.
Crazy. We've talked about this a couple times now, just with the rate of the speed with which we're moving through things this session. A full week goes by and you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, like how is that only 5 days ago? But it really is working out that way. So listen, Earl, I think one of the things I thought would be interesting for us to talk about today, especially because we've reached the halfway point and this is sort of the mid-session culling, is that there are a lot of ways for bills to die. Many, many ways. And
Correct.
We had an interesting thing happen this week that I think is a kind of unique case study to kind of start this conversation. And that was Mitch Gore's 1066, which essentially prohibits the purchasing of luxury vehicles by government. And I think would also have required anyone who has purchased one of these luxury vehicles to return it and essentially repay the taxpayers, put the money back into the general fund so taxpayer dollars aren't being used for these like high trim vehicles. Very popular policy. Mitch passed a bill last session. This would be the kind of logical next step to deal with folks who are kind of like flaunting these vehicles in front of taxpayers as it is. But that bill died, and it died not by being voted down, not by dying in committee. This bill died on third reading by not having the opportunity to be called down by the member. So, Earl, first of all, you've been around a really long time. You're much, much older than me. Can you talk just about, have you seen this happen before? Because bills die on third reading, but usually the author has consented for that to happen. This was a situation where that wasn't the case. Have you seen this happen before that you can recall?
So don't act like you can just call me old. Let's start with that. And then second of all, no, I have not. I'm 10 years into being in office, and I do not have any memory of a bill dying like this. Now, there have been times where the bill went through the committee process. It went through seconds, amendments or no amendments on seconds, and then hit thirds, and the author passed and passed and passed until we ran out the clock. So I've seen that happen, but for us to have a bill go on seconds, get through seconds, expect that the next day it's going to be on thirds, and when we have a bill list provided, it's not there. That's a new one. So obviously that was something that we as Democrats were greatly, and I think Republicans too, because if you look at it, obviously it had to have Republican votes in support to get through it to that point. We're in support of, and then we show up and it's not on the list. And then I'm going to turn it back to you, because as the person over rules for us in the House Democrats, that then kicked into a process where you got engaged in this and actually did some things on the House floor. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So, first of all, we probably should have had Mitch on today to talk about this, because this is fascinating. But he probably didn't have time for us, and we don't have enough listeners to make it interesting for him. But the fact is, there was even Republican co-authors on the bill. So our best, the best thing we can tell from this is that Mitch has been throwing a few more punches than he has in sessions past. I think he started to tick off some of our Republican colleagues with his approach to messaging. And so the result is, on third, the Republican caucus decided they didn't want to move this bill, even though it's very, very strong and smart public policy. So the question becomes, the bill was not calendared. The speaker calendars bills, but our interpretation of the rules is that Rule 138.2 says the speaker shall calendar bills eligible for third reading. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So under that interpretation, very rarely in the House rules does it say the speaker shall do anything. He has immense discretion to do what he wants. But we believe
Mm-hmm.
that if a bill is eligible for third reading and you have not got the consent of the author to remove it, the speaker should include that on the calendar. So the first thing that happened was that bill didn't show up on the calendar despite Mitch wanting it on the calendar. So that's issue number one. So we actually challenged that the House was in violation of Rule 138.2 because the bill didn't appear on the calendar. And then we go on because 138.3 says that any member shall have the opportunity to call down their bill on third reading once we've gotten to that part of the calendar. So because 138.2 wasn't followed, then Mitch was also not given the opportunity under 138.3. And so we had a debate about this, argued that he should have his opportunity to present his bill. And if they want to kill it, vote it down. You got 70
Yeah.
votes. Just kill the bill.
Yeah, you can kill it that way.
Yeah, 100%. So we argued at that point. We were found to not be correct according to the speaker. He was obviously able to rule that our point was not well taken, meaning they don't care about our point. and we challenged. The only other option we have at that point is to challenge the ruling of the chair. So we put the ruling to the full 100 members of the House to say, hey, do you agree with us or do you agree with the speaker in this particular instance? And so I spoke, Matt Pierce spoke and talked about the history of when this rule came about to prevent the speaker from having what he called dictatorial power. Mitch spoke, the leader, Phil Giaquinta, spoke. And so this all kind of transpired and they voted us down, not favoring our approach to the rules. And thus Mitch's bill died. So here, let's get into this, right? All the ways a bill can die. The first way a bill can die is you file your bill, for example, pre-K referenda. Okay, it's one of my bills. You file a bill that's smart public policy that we should be able to get on board with. Early learning matters. It has immense downstream effects. You file your bill, it goes through first reading, gets assigned to committee, and the chairman chooses not to hear your bill. That is way number one. The bill can die. It can just never get a hearing in committee, and thus it never goes anywhere. And that bill is certainly all the way dead because the only way to move your bill is either to get it a hearing or put it into some other kind of bill somewhere else. But you can't do it on the floor because we can't put active bills as an amendment on the House floor. So way number one, goes to committee, never gets assigned or never gets a hearing, thus the bill is dead. What's another way, Earl, a bill can die?
Well, a bill can die is that if it does actually get a hearing and there is a vote on the bill in committee, it's not 100% guaranteed that just because the bill has a committee or receives a committee hearing by the chairperson, that your bill would die. So you can't just take the attitude of, oh, great, I have a hearing, I'm good, because people will show up, they will speak against it, they'll reach out, they'll talk to the chairperson, members of the committee. So every bill that makes it into committee there's not a guarantee that that's an automatic pass. So a bill can die at that level as well, in terms of didn't get the votes to get it out of committee, your bill's gone.
Bills can also die on second reading. So as you may remember, second reading is the moment when every member of the body of the Indiana House of Representatives has an opportunity to offer an amendment on a bill. Because after a bill passes committee, it goes to second reading. So what can happen here is committee, maybe you didn't hash out all the issues. There's a poison pill in the bill still. Maybe you can't get the votes in your caucus. So instead of engrossing your bill, you just pass. The author can just pass on their bill over and over again until we hit the deadline. Then the bill could die there. But also, and this is where the minority can play some games, is if we have some amendments that kind of point out some of those holes in a bill or some of the major issues or the major conflicts, that can kill a bill because they also don't want to have a debate about an issue that we've identified that maybe they missed, that we've isolated the amendment. So you may just keep passing on your bill because the bill would implode under the weight of that amendment discussion. That doesn't happen as often, but when it does, it's a very, very smart moment on the minority's part to kind of force the demise of bad legislation. Second reading is another place that a bill can die. But if a bill passes through second reading, it becomes engrossed, it goes to third reading. We've discussed that the speaker, under the present interpretation of the rules, can single-handedly, unilaterally, without discussion or debate, kill a bill. But how else can a bill die just on third reading?
Well, it's also the numbers game again is, do you have the votes or not? And sometimes what happens uh, uh, in terms of third reading is if because there's some bills are complete party line. You know, we know all Democrats or almost all are going to vote in one way, almost all or all Republicans are going to vote another way. Then there are a lot of bills where it's going to be a mixture. So it may depend on where you live. It may depend on your feelings. There's people that are anything that has to do with gaming or alcohol or anything in that arena, they're no's. There's all kind of reasons why people will vote no. So then it's the numbers game of, do you have the votes? And a lot of times, a little bit behind the curtain, is on those type of bills, we have, and Justin Moed is our whip, and Carolyn Jackson and I believe is it Mitch are the two assistant whips. I may be giving Mitch a job he doesn't have, but there'll be the process of figuring out what the vote is out of our caucus. And so there may be some conversations happening of, okay, of the 30 of us, there may only be 10 votes for something. And there may be conversations happening on the other side, on the Republican side, that of the 70 of them, maybe there are only 20 people. So yes, it made it out of committee because those yeses were on that committee, but there's not an automatic guarantee that the bill will make it out or make it through third reading. So we usually know if a bill is in trouble, because let's be real, if Republicans, they have the numbers, they have a supermajority. If they want a bill to pass and they have the numbers, they can pass it even if all of us vote no. But we usually know if a bill is in trouble if, when it's called up on third reading for the first time, the author passes. That is a great signal that there may be some issues there. We also, as Democrats, know that because suddenly we become a little bit more popular because those Democrat votes are needed. So people may be more apt to talk to us because we then have some ability to do some things. So, a lot of times we know or have at least a decent idea of what's going on. Now, we did have an interesting situation that happened last week with a bill that had a majority of the votes, but did not have enough for a constitutional approval. I think I'm using that terminology correctly.
Yeah.
And that is the bill requiring constitutional majority. Thank you for that. Constitutional majority. So if I remember correctly, the vote was 48 to 46, but 48 is not a majority of obviously 100 of us. So yes votes than no votes, but that bill still died. So that's a way a bill can have a majority of votes, but still not make it through the process.
It might have even been, I think you're right. I think there were 48 no votes. Yeah, who knows? Either way, numbers don't matter, but the fact of the matter is it didn't hit 51. It didn't hit 51.
Right.
And so that's, so it's interesting. So we literally had a bill die on third, the good old fashioned way, not enough votes.
Yeah.
We've had bills in the last 2 weeks die by omission. This actually, a lot of bills have died in the last couple of weeks. I've got the list here. The one you're talking about is the firing squad bill that died. HB 1086, which was around 10 commandments in schools, never got scheduled for a third reading. It died.
Correct.
Mitch's luxury vehicle ban didn't get called for a final vote, effectively killing the bill. It died. HB 1078, which was the online lottery bill, died, not being scheduled for third reading. And then marijuana policy, HB 1298, 1191, all died in committee without hearings. Okay, but the thing is, even after you've passed the Indiana House of Representatives, you have won the victory of your bill. Doesn't mean it's not going to die. The ways it can die the first time around, it can die all over again. So it can get passed out of the House and then the Senate never even schedule it for a hearing in the committee. It can go through the same amendment process and go off the train track at that point. It can die on third reading by a vote in the Senate as well. And I think one of the last things we can talk about, which we'll dive into more and we get this point in the session, it can also die in conference committee. So if you pass your bill out of the House and the Senate amends it, and then you decide not to concur with those amendments, the bill has to go to conference committee where both chambers come to determination on how that bill is going to look in its final form. And if you can't get it done by the deadline, or if you can't get the signatures you need from both chambers, your bill can effectively die at the very, very end of the finish. I mean, it's literally like falling flat on your face an inch from the finish line.
Or the guy who's going in for the touchdown and they do the celebration and throw the ball in the air when they're on the 1 yard line.
That's right. Yeah. Really, that can happen. And absolutely can happen.
So
Yeah,
I
so
need to
it's
add
interesting.
something.
100 ways to die in the Indiana General
Yeah.
Assembly. 100 ways for bills to die.
But I want to add something to that because I just remembered this as we were talking because I know this happens as well. There are some times where a chairman in the chairperson, I'm just going to use the House because we're in the House, likes a bill, likes the topic, thinks it's a great topic, but they already know that the corresponding committee in the Senate, that chairperson has said, "I hate that topic." I'm a little dramatic by saying hate. I dislike that topic. I dislike that bill. I don't care if it comes over. I am not going to hear it. So there's times where, and I've had that conversation even this session about one of the topics since at the beginning and asked the chairperson in the House, "Are you going to hear this bill?" And their response is, "I like it, but I know it's not going to make it, so I'm not going to waste time, especially on a condensed short session, hearing that bill." So you even have
Amen.
situations like that. So, and I would tell you, I know we're kind of, as we're at the halfway point, and bills have transitioned over. Just to get into a little bit of that, this is the condensed version. I've been calling it 26 session 2.0, which I think has made it even harder because there's even less time, because we also have to have time for conference committees, that there are bills that are going to die, not necessarily because the chairperson say that got it in the Senate, that it came from the House, or vice versa, doesn't like the bill. They have to look at their list of bills that came to their committee and prioritize. And sometimes a bill that they may like isn't just enough of a priority, and it'll die for that. So that's kind of frustrating for the author. I actually had a senator call me last night. I was on my way home, and he has two bills that passed out of the Senate. And he had basically been told by one chairperson, "I don't have time." And the other chairperson in the Senate, or in the House, excuse me, he did not have an answer from. So, but he was pretty confident that both his bills were going to die. And they probably were going to be based on the fact that not a high enough priority, and there's just not enough time that the chairperson seizes in terms of hearing them.
I think it's important to note here that this should also illustrate for you how incredible it is when a member of the minority gets a
Yeah.
bill to the governor's desk. I mean, the level of strategy and nuance and relationships and all that it takes for that to actually occur is pretty remarkable because everything's stacked against you. And that's just
Yeah.
in your own chamber. You put it over into the Senate where it's 40-10 in terms of Republicans to Democrats. I mean, so it is remarkable. And our members every year get stuff through, you included, right? I mean, I'm one of the examples of the bill passing the House, then dying in the Senate. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's, I've yet to have something that I'm the primary author on hit the governor's desk, which is a cross I'm willing to continue bearing, I suppose. Listen, as we've
We
thrown
have
some
faith
stuff,
in you.
let's throwing some stuff over our way. Just some bills to note. HB 1003 is a 456-page priority bill that repeals, merges, or restructures boards and commissions, transfers the Fire Prevention and Building Safety Commission to the Department of Homeland Security, and alters administrative rulemaking. Passed 6729. Very much on a party line. We had HB 1417, which is a civil litigation rewrite, limiting public nuisance lawsuits and raising the cap on attorney fee awards. We had township consolidation, HB 1315. This measure would eliminate or consolidate hundreds of small townships based on population and the services they provide. It passed only 55-43 and now moves to the Senate. This is an interesting one, right? So you talk about when Democrat votes matter. 55, we've had a couple times this session, more than ever before in my term. Like, I mean, I've been here 6 years, more like 53-56 ayes on a bill than ever before. Consolidation is one of those. That bill is not a sure thing going into the Senate, and they've got some work still to do on that. We had the Indianapolis Public Schools bill go through, HB 1423. That was mostly on a party line vote as well. Expanded police powers for the National Guard, passed 67-29. That gives the National Guard the ability to conduct police enforcement and have police powers in cities without the city even ever requesting it. So we obviously voted against that. This has been a busy last couple weeks. Just those bills alone would take up plenty of time for a full debate. And then this week, I think also we had what would have been SB 76, which is an immigration enforcement bill, get a lot of attention. They passed on that bill on second reading. We had, I believe, 26 amendments filed as Democrats. to go
there are a
after
lot.
that bill, because that bill's got some really, really bad stuff in it. And I think we'll have more of an opportunity to talk about that next week when we've had a little bit more debate on the floor around the legislation. So yeah, needless to say, like, things have been happening fast.
Hmm.
Things are still messy. And there's only a couple of weeks left, really, in the grand scheme of things. So there'll be plenty more debate. And honestly, it sounds like the Senate has sent us some real stinkers. I mean, I think we're going to be done with some pretty lousy bills here over the next couple of weeks, depending on what chairmen and chairpersons and chairwomen tend to hear in committee.
Yeah, it's always again the battle of hopefully if a bad bill makes it out of one side, it dies on the other side. So we'll look for that. I do want to talk about, and this one hit Ways and Means this week. It's authored by Senator Mishler, and it is Senate Bill 4, which has some language in it. We know that childcare is a big issue. I don't even know today what the number of childcares is that have closed in the state. But that has become such a big issue for us because funding was not there, funding cut, all that stuff. I know I did hear the stat, and in a meeting, the Black Caucus, we had a meeting with the governor this past week, and that was one of the topics was childcare. And I had heard it was either earlier in the day or the day before that because of parents having to make a decision, do I work or do I take care of my child? You got to take care of your child. You can't leave your small child at home. You have two, you know that. And because so many parents are having to stay home, the state is losing $1 billion in tax revenue because that person is not making money. They're not, there's no taxes involved with their salary and them spending salary and all of that stuff. And so it really is hurting the states. And the senator was very clear with this, that this is a Band-Aid, but there's $300 million that will be available for childcare funding. And I forgot to look this up, but it's coming out of the Frog Fund. And we have to, maybe for next week, we'll have that looked up because something called the Frog Fund, you got to know what that means. But there's money coming out of that or through that will provide and help out with childcare in terms of slowing down this train of it going off the cliff and keeping some childcare facilities open. And doing some work there. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to, that one going through the process. Maybe we can make that one even better as it hits us on the House side.
Yeah, it's this will be an interesting remaining period of time together. Some good bills, some bad bills, everything in between. And we don't talk campaign side, but I will just say this also was the filing deadline week. So
Yep.
You now know who's going to be on your ballot for the most part. And so I think, it's the never ending story, man. We just keep moving fast. And
Yeah.
here we are. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
You had a bill going over to the Senate, right? I guess let's close with kind of what you got going on. You've got some stuff in the Senate. Now you got to start approaching how you make sure that
Well,
moves, right?
no, nothing that I'm the main on.
Okay.
So yeah, I would. Unfortunately, this year I didn't get anything that I'm the main on passed, but there's some things I'm working
I'm
on.
so used to you having a bill passed that I just assume.
No, not this year, but that's okay. There's still some, big things going on. Obviously, the stadium bill, Senate Bill 76, I'm one of the co-sponsors of that one that is related to us bringing the Bears here to Northwest Indiana. So I'm excited about that. I had a bill that I was co-author on. I've been pushing tourism since I ran the first time I got elected because of the economic development and the jobs and what it means. And so there was a bill I was a co-author on that Mike Kirikoff was the main on, that has to do with tourist TIDs, tourism improvement districts. So that bill actually got amended into the DLGF, the local government bill. So I'm excited about that. So some things I'm involved in are moving and grooving. Nothing that I'm the main on is moving and grooving, but that's okay.
Yeah, I definitely had some language that got embedded in other bills. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Listen, Earl, I want you to understand. I know we talk about this as we wrap up here. I just want you to understand my life. Like, I'm sitting here at this table trying to do our podcast, and here's everything that's around me. I'll just show you the cup of that. Here's one sippy cup. All right, this is sippy cup number 1. Okay, this is toddler cup number 2. Okay, this is just in my general within an arm's reach right now. Okay, I have a green train. Okay, this is just right here. This is a smock. This is just a smock so that a child eating tortellini and marinara doesn't destroy their clothes. But guess what? Even this smock doesn't do the job. It's still like there are stains from the tortellini last night on every surface around me right now. And then also there's a plug protector because when you have little kids, you got to plug your electric. But when you've got computer plugged in, it's different. So that's all to say that when the week wraps up, we all return to reality, just like everybody else. And so that's what's going on in this part of the neighborhood.
Mine is a little bit, as the guy that does not have kids, I grabbed a vitamin water out of the refrigerator because I literally ran in from an event put on by the Northwest Indiana Forum. So I was running and gunning, and I'm like, I need something to, wet the whistle. Always, of course, cell phone, because, that's always with. And then my mat on my desk has a worn spot. So I have a tape measure. Sorry, and no jokes, Blake. I have a tape measure because I forgot how big this thing is. So I have to measure it.
You need to get a new one.
Buy a new one. Got to get a new one. Yeah. And then also because besides the event that I had earlier, I had 2 Zoom meetings. I do have, which I love this thing, a remarkable, because I had to take notes for my meetings.
Oh yeah,
over Zoom.
Great tool.
Yeah,
great tool.
There's other stuff here because it's a little bit of a mess, but those are some of the maybe fun things on my desk.
Yeah, I like it. It's a little bit of who you are. You are.
And I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add one more thing because I love these little metal tripods. I have bought multiple so I can stick my cell phone on there and it can be very visible. If I want to watch something, it's visible, or if I want to talk on the phone. So a little bit of insight into the worlds of Earl and Blake and the difference between the guy with small children and the guy with no children.
And the primary takeaway, very boring. We both have very boring things around us. So hey, listen, we have nothing but crazy coming up next couple weeks. We'll try to keep you involved. Obviously, if you feel so inclined, ask a question in the comments, send us a note. Is there somebody from the chamber you want us to invite on? Because what ends up happening is we get to Thursday and we've been going so fast, we don't have time to ask anybody to join us. Is there somebody you want to hear from? Let's get them on the air with us. So other than that, Earl, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope we're getting ready to rock and roll next week again. And folks, we will see you in the next episode of Sessions.